What's good, family? This is Jazz Kaiwiko'o, aka Kumu Jaz, on a second episode of this blog here, which I've kind of combined the word mahalo and os, and I say MahalOSS. You know, people put a
MahalOSS.
Z at the end and say mahalos, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I just kind of thought of that as a concept, and the reason why I thought of that was because of how grateful I am for jujitsu. So what I'm doing with these next set of interviews is I'm paying homage to some good friends of mine, and possibly some I haven't really met yet, that are not only have jujitsu in their life, but have music in their life. And I feel that jujitsu for many musicians is kind of just another way for us to express ourselves. And when you do both, man, the people that come out of both of those together are some amazing people. So the guy that I want to introduce you to today is a fantastic musician, guitar player, ukulele extraordinaire from the band Kaiwiko'o, also an amazing solo artist, and he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Ladies and gentlemen, Vince Esquire of Maui. How you, my man?
How's it going, brother? And thanks for doing this. This is fantastic, man. This is really cool.
I've been following you for a lot. We first connected on Facebook, of course, like many of us do. And but I was following you mainly for your music.
Right.
And then I saw a post of you that said, oh, you know, this weekend I'm doing my black belt demonstration. I was like, holy crap, anybody above purple belt is somebody that you know is dedicated to the, you know, to the art. And so that was just awesome to find out. First of all, tell us about your jiu-jitsu journey and how you discovered it.
I think, you know, I'm sure we can agree that the very early UFCs had a lot to do with it. You know, the Hoist Gracie thing. And I was never very athletic. I'm still not very athletic, you know, even today. But just the concept of somebody that's not extremely athletic being able to go in and do what they did.
Right.
That was a big part of it. But also my dad is an old school Taekwondo black belt from the late 60s, from a very strict regimented Taekwondo background, Korean background. So having a dad that also trained in martial arts was kind of a predecessor, I guess, a seed planted in my head a long time ago. Yeah. And eventually I would find something. I did a little boxing when I was a kid, and the whole stand-up thing. And then as we get into playing music, we got to protect our hands. The whole punching thing kind of was, you know, questionable. So, you know, I looked at what they were doing on the ground, and I was like, well, that looks like fun. And you know, I won't potentially hurt myself as bad. And so I started looking up places to train here on Maui. And this was probably 15 years ago now, 14, 15 years ago. And I found a couple of places. And the first place that I found was, of course, Maui Jiu-Jitsu. You know, it's probably the biggest academy we have here on the island. And that's Luis Limao Heredia. And he's the main instructor there. So I wrote an email, and I got an email back from who was the assistant at the time. She was the front desk girl. Her name is Danielle, and she's also a musician. I'll introduce you to her too, because she'd be good for you to talk to. She's a brown belt. Yeah. And she was like, yeah, come train here. Everybody's really cool. You know, we got some musicians. You know, everybody will train good with you because they know of your profession, and you know, you can't be injured and stuff like that. So I started there. I went up there and I took my first class, and I immediately threw up right after the warm-ups. Actually, I had to leave the mats during the warm-ups to go puke in the hallway, drink some water real quick. Okay, come back in and keep going, you know. And so
back in that era too, like warm-ups were serious. Like now people
warm-ups,
don't do warm-ups hardly.
Warm-ups were serious.
Yeah.
And the guy we had leading the class at the time was a purple belt and pretty intense in the warm-up in the warm-up department. So at that time, you're doing the bunny hops and the over-unders, and we had like 15, 20 people in class. So you're doing it over and over again. This is my first class.
Yeah.
So I do that, I throw up, come back in, finish the class, and I just got the bug, man. I was just like, I got to keep doing this. So at that point, I started training twice a day, every day, for about 5 days a week. I would train every day.
Wow.
Because I lived close to the academy at the time. I was living up on that side of the island. It's kind of up on the North Shore, so it's a little farther away. And so I was living up there, and I had access to the gym regularly. It was close by. So I was there twice a day, every day, for at least the first year. Yeah. I almost got my blue belt in 6 months.
Wow.
Because I was there twice a day, every day.
Yeah, like, yeah. And back then, that would have been like a feat, man, to like get in 6 months. Yeah.
And Luis was, he goes, you're almost there. You've been training really hard, you know, every day, twice a day, but we're just going to hold you back. And so that's where I started my journey, was at Maui Jiu-Jitsu. And it's been quite a journey throughout that time. And, you know, different things happened, but that was where I started. Yeah, I was there for 6 years.
In that time, in 15 years ago, and especially coming from a Rickson Gracie, that's more self-defense is like a priority in there, yeah?
Super
Which
priority.
I'm assuming in the reason a lot for your black belt demonstration was you had to show probably a sufficient amount of self-defense techniques, probably, right?
Well, the interesting thing was, about 6 years into my journey of training, I had an opportunity to take over the recording studio that I have now. And what happened was, the recording studio that I have is on a completely other side of the island. Like it's about a 40-minute drive. And you know how it is as engineers, we don't entirely work on our schedule, you know?
Yeah.
Our schedule is based around when other people want to book sessions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it became more and more increasingly difficult for me to train in haiku, right? And be there as much as I wanted to be there. So I had to have the conversation with Luis. I was like, hey, you know, I still want to train a lot, as much as I can. You know, this was probably 8 or 9 years ago, something like that. But I can't make it up here as frequently as I'd like to. Is it okay? And can I get your permission for me to find somewhere closer to where I'm going to be to continue my training, so I can continue training as frequently as I'd like to? So, you know, he gave me his blessing to find a location closer to the studio. And it just so happened that my professor now, his school was a block away from the studio. So I could literally open the door and walk there at 5 minutes and go and train. So I started about my purple belt journey. I started at another academy.
Okay.
Yeah, with blessing from my previous academy, and so there was no weird crayon trader thing or anything like that. You know how that goes, you know, with changing schools. But I think it was because I approached it, you know, the right way.
I think too, at purple belt, that's kind of the level where you're really finding like what you want to do with yourself in jiu-jitsu. Right. Like, am I going to be a competitor, dude? Am I going to be a teacher? And that's usually when people are like, oh, I wonder if this is working for me, whether it be location wise or something. It's usually at purple when you start making that decision, and you're man enough to like approach your coach or professor in a way like that. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like I just started training at another place and, you know, all of a sudden there's pictures of me on social media at a new school or something. It wasn't anything like that. So I still have a good relationship with them. I love Maui Jiu-Jitsu. My foundation will always be in that self-defense, Rickson Gracie style of jiu-jitsu, because I put my blood, sweat, and tears on those mats, you know, for 6 years, a lot, you know. So that's always my foundation. And it was just, you know, other circumstances that led to finding another place.
Now, when in the beginning you were talking about like when you first went, you weren't athletic, and
no, not at all.
And many of us choose jiu-jitsu because of that fact, because we see that, oh man, like if you look at the average world champion, he looks like, you know, a dude that works at regular, where he's wearing khakis or something, you know, the average world champion doesn't look like a Jack D1 wrestler or something like that. You know, was the fact that, you know, that you didn't have to, you know, adjust your athleticism or go to the gym every day, as far as like going work out just so you can do jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. That was a big reason of why I was able to stick with it. I mean, I did take a really good pounding for the first year and a half, almost 2 years. You know, I was the nail as opposed to the hammer for a long time. Yeah. So I think it was just it was that mixed with just, I'm pretty stubborn and determined when it comes to doing things that I want to do. It was the same with music. You know, I was like, I'm determined. I want to get good at this. I want to be able to do this. And so when I found jiu-jitsu, I wanted to at least be a competent jiu-jitsu player. You know, I wasn't looking to be like Gordon Ryan or any kind of world champion or anything like that. I just wanted to be competent and know what I know well enough to be able to use it if I needed it, kind of a thing, you know.
And are you, how are you with competition? Are you competing at all, or?
You know what, I did a tournament at white belt and I did a tournament at blue belt, and that was it for me. You know, I was competing against guys that were, you know, had a lot more time to put into it than I did. You know, that were serious competitors and training, you know, competition classes on the regular. So, you know, I after the second one, I was like, competition's not for me. I think my route's going to be more eventually becoming like a coach.
Yeah. Awesome. Same here, man. Yeah. You know, like with other musicians that you get to talk to that might be interested in jiu-jitsu, what's the thing that you kind of push them towards of why it would be good for them.
I relate it to music and the fact that it's endless. You know,
Mhm.
anybody that's serious about music realizes they're never going to learn everything, right? And it's the
Right.
same with jiu-jitsu. And
Yeah.
it's like a music. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, and how you approach it. It's like improvising. You
Yeah.
know, a serious musician can improvise.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so that's how I try to get and explain to other musicians that might want to get into it that it's a physical way of improvising.
Right.
You know, just with your body and through movement and stuff like that. And like you said, everybody has their own goals in this, right?
Yeah.
Some people want to do it just to get fit. Some people want to do it for the camaraderie. Some people do it for the competition.
Yeah.
But I think for musicians, if you look at it like a puzzle, like music, improvising, you could get lost, just like music.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Like
you get stuck, man.
there's guys like that you can compare to jazz music.
Yeah,
You know,
it's,
that rolls
yeah,
out.
it's
Like
it's Miles Davis.
John Donaher would be jazz.
Yeah, he'd be like the Miles Davis of the
Right.
jiu-jitsu mind, you know.
Right.
And you watch the competitors nowadays and what they can do, the people that are competing, it's mind blowing, man. You watch some of the tournaments, I'm just like, whoa, you know, unbelievable.
Now, what about as far as injury? Like, you know, because like you were saying, especially guitar players, right? Like I play drums, so I'm not really worried about too much injury. You know what I mean? Maybe my shoulders, but like, what about guys that play piano, play guitar? Like, what would you tell them? Like, because I know a lot of guys that just stay away from jiu-jitsu, period, just for the fact that they're worried about their hands.
Right. Yeah. And I've had a couple of musicians, one in particular, my friend Danielle, again, she had a pretty serious finger injury that kept her out of playing. And, you know, if that's your livelihood, that can be a problem, you know?
Right.
So mainly for me, it's being selective in your training partners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the main thing. I went from from being at a really big school that had continuously new white belts, and you're expected to train with all the new people, constantly white belts. It's you know, it's a gamble, right?
Yeah.
So as I got older and you know, I put in the years, I started to realize how being selective of my training partners has been crucial to not getting injured. And I haven't had a severe, thank God, knock on wood, I've never had a severe finger injury in all 14 years. But I think it's being more selective of who I train with is the reason. Yeah.
When I go to open mats because of my past shoulder injuries, I only roll with the brown belts and black belts.
Yeah.
You know, because I know they won't injure me.
Yeah. I have a crew of about 4 or 5 guys that I train with now. They're all purple and above.
Yeah.
You know, and we all, you know, I can trust these guys that we can roll really hard, but super controlled, you know.
Totally.
And that's, and I haven't had an injury in a long time because of it.
Now, music and jiu-jitsu is such a common thing. One of the things I think is because of the expression, like the personal expression. Like what other art can you almost dress anyway with, you know, with the various gis that you're able to purchase, you know, various colors they're allowed. On no gi days, you get to dress like a freaking superhero.
Right, totally. I think it's great that we're starting to see, you know, literally characters coming out of the woodwork for this. You know, like I mentioned Gordon Ryan. He's the biggest character you can find, you know, and it's drawing attention to the sport.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as musicians that show people, we can definitely embrace it. I'm still pretty traditional in the white or the blue or the black gi, but I think the whole wearing the, you know, like Jeff Glover used to wear the was it Wolverine?
Oh yeah. He just like wear the onesie superhero.
Yeah. His whole thing would be like the Wolverine outfit and whatnot, and I think that's great. I think it's, you know, I think musicians can get into that, and if that's if that's your thing and you want to go that route, I think it's available. It just brings more attention to the sport, you know.
What I wear depends on how fat I look in it.
Yeah. I've had a couple of gis I've had to retire until I leave myself.
I was like, I don't look good in these light colors, man.
Yeah, totally.
I gotta stick with the browns and blacks. Now, speaking of music, man, what song would you say describes your game?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like, you know, like in music and jiu-jitsu, I was thinking about this earlier. Even when you're a professional musician, there's levels to being a professional musician, right? Just like when you're a jiu-jitsu black belt, there's levels to being a jiu-jitsu black belt.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
You got the hobbyist jiu-jitsu black belt, which is pretty much what I am, and then you got the world champion black belt, right?
Right.
So my game is, you know, whatever song you can think of that has, you know, what's something that has like 1 or 2 chords in it?
Reggae songs.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, like a 12-bar blues or something, you know.
Yeah.
Something very basic, but you know, it's steady. That's how my game is, man. I don't do any of that fancy stuff, you know. All that inverted stuff, my neck's bad and stuff
Oh
from
yeah,
so many years. And
that's a young man's game right there, man.
I can't do that stuff anymore. So, you know, and the other thing too is the grips for the gi. Like I can't do the cat claw grips and stuff anymore, and anything where anybody's really pulling, like spider guard defenses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have to like do like the pistol grips. That's like pretty much the best thing I got as far as gi grips go. So my game is it's super basic, man. But you know, I'm confident that I know what I know. So
tell us what's going on with music, man. Tell us what's happening with Kaiwiko'o, your solo stuff.
Oh, Kaiwiko'o is busy, man. We just signed with a new booking agency. It's called Pacifica Artists, and it's the same agency like Kalani Pea and a bunch of Let Kapana, a bunch of other artists have. So we were looking at a couple of serious tours coming up. We have one in the summer, and then another one in the fall that are both going to be like Pacific Northwest area. And then in the beginning of the year, February, we're going East Coast.
Nice.
DC, Baltimore, New York, Philadelphia, a bunch of other places.
Thank God things are open, back up open, yeah?
Oh man, now's the time. Now's the time to go hit it, you know?
I remember just a year ago, like there was a couple of shows you guys were in. You're like, man, we're gonna do one show, you know, and that was just a feat to just try to get one show going during COVID.
Right. Yeah, so we're really, you know, we've just been kind of finding ways around all of the COVID stuff, you know, to kind of just make it work however we can make it work within the guidelines of the club. If there was only a certain amount of people that could be there, great, we'll sell that many tickets. We know we'll sell it out. And we just kind of tried to, you know, and we made it work for us, man. We were somehow able to kind of navigate and still make moves, you know, the whole time all this was going on. And
man,
the album too.
You finally got to work with Jake, didn't you?
I finally got to work with Jake.
Tell me about that, because I remember talking to you before on like, and seeing some of your posts as well, as like you're finally getting to work with him. How did the experience go?
You know, it was interesting because we had to do it remotely. You know, this whole last album we did, except for the people that lived on island that were the guests, everybody had to do it from wherever they were. Just the fact that somebody that I grew up listening to and studying was willing to donate and give their time to our project. It's like a full circle thing, you know. It means that it was validation to me that the hard work that I've put in all the way to this time has paid off a little bit. Yeah. So it was great. The album came out fantastic. We just submitted for the Hokus. You probably saw that post.
Yeah, saw that, man. Awesome.
Yeah, 9 different categories were in for that album. So we hope some good stuff comes from that. Yeah.
All right. Anything going to be happening in the jiu-jitsu world for you?
You know, I have so many gigs the next 2 months. I have a couple days a week that I try to train. At this point, you know how it is when you get your black belt, your ego about everything is gone, right? All my hard training days are behind me. So now if I can get 1-2 days in a week, I feel pretty good, you know, on top of all the gigs I do and studio stuff. So I just go and train, you know. We just opened a new academy right down the street. I didn't tell you much about the other professor that I trained with, Ermin.
Oh, please do.
Who actually gave me my black belt.
Yeah, please do.
He's a 3rd-degree black belt under Gustavo Machado from Virginia Beach. And he owned the school right around the corner. And when I was looking for a place to train and I had my purple belt, he was willing to take me in as a new student. So I started there and I continued training with him all the way through my purple belt, all the way he gave me my brown belt. And then eventually the black. And then he, during COVID, decided that him and his wife were going to mainly spend more time on the mainland. So at that academy was Maui Martial Arts. We had a kickboxing instructor, Muay Thai. His name is Shane, really fantastic Muay Thai instructor. So he took over the responsibility of opening the new academy, who's basically a subsidiary of Ermin, of our professor. Basically keep the academy going. So I get there once or twice a week, and really good school. I have my crew of guys that I train with, and but it's competition, all that stuff. Nah, man, I'm done with that. I teach a little bit here and there, but other than that, I go get my rolls in, my sweat in, and put my gi on occasionally, and That's about it. I'm not. I mean, I want to come and train with you, man, because I see you teach all the time.
That's all I do.
Yeah.
That's become my training somewhat.
Right.
Because I'm teaching so much that I don't get to go train. So actually, whenever there's like a seminar somewhere,
Right.
I go
Right.
just so I
Right.
can be a student again. And you know, like I'm sure you feel it too, man. I just feel so dumb now as a black belt.
Yeah. Totally. I'm. You know, that's the thing is, I kind of I gave the teaching responsibility that I had to some of the lower belts that are really, really good, really fantastic. You know, and because I just wanted to go back to going to class.
Yeah.
You know, doing the drills, doing the, you know, learning the technique and doing the drilling the technique and just, you know, like you said, being the student again. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I just go to class and sit there like everybody else and try to learn and keep rolling. And yeah, that's all that's all you can do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how often do you teach every day?
I teach 4 days a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then if I'm not on the mat, I'm in here. You know, the drill.
Same thing, man. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
If
totally.
I'm not on stage, I'm in the studio here or I'm training. That's about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, man, if you're ever on the island, please come, because we could either roll, jam, record, or all three.
Let's do it all. Let's all do. I would love to come to a class too, man, and and learn some technique from you, because I see your videos. I see your videos. Your techniques are solid, man.
Oh,
so
dude, coming from you, thank you so
I
much.
want to come learn. Yeah, for sure, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Man, where can everybody find you on social media, bro?
Vince Esquire Facebook, Vince Esquire 1985 Instagram. Those are my two primary. I don't really do TikTok or anything like that. So yeah, just come find me on the main ones. I'm pretty easy to find. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my brother.
Let me know when this comes out, man, so I can share it.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Cool, brother. All right, man.